Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. A request to viewers, please press on the bell button at the end of this video, which is to subscribe to our channel. When you subscribe to our channel, you will get notified of all the videos as and when they come online. It's our goal to publish up to 3 videos every day. So we are very busy these days. We are putting out a lot of valuable content for you to see. It's all free at this point of time, and I encourage every one of you to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Thanks in advance. And today we are going to talk about this incredible phenomenon that Professor RV has observed, the relationship between micro, small and medium enterprises, MSME and Hindutva. To know more about it, let's go over to Bangalore, where Professor RV is going to join us. Professor RV, welcome to PGurus channel.
Oh, thanks a lot. It's always a pleasure to be talking to you on PGurus channel. And this is something of a very, very major issue I have been thinking about. But a number of people have asked me, you have written something on India Inc. and about partnership proprietorship firm, their role, that is medium and small enterprises who are suffering, who don't have any support system and other thing. And also you have been writing and talking about this unity of Hindus, Hindutva and various other threat from FCRA by the church and various other type of groups. No, it's very puzzling. One side you are, and you have also been discussing about international finance and various other. So I want to clarify. I thought I have started doing a research. I'm racing against, of course, time and health on this issue. Basically, you see, there is a lot of commonality between Hindus and this MSME and SME. First and foremost, both of them are not recognized or in any way considered important by the government. This is very, very important, whichever government comes to power. But till you come to power, you talk about them and other thing. You price them, you say this, that, and small and medium industries are the backbone of the economy and other thing. Actually, 2 things we should recognize. The aggregate credit available to them has declined for this small and medium over the period of last 10 to 12 years. One, the competition to them is from global corporates who borrow at 2.5% or 3% per annum, while these fellows borrow at 2 to 4% per month. There is no comparison at all, and these fellows are derided as unorganized, sort of thing. And then World Bank and so many experts are telling need to organize these people, whatever it means. Well, basically, they want it to be corporatized or whatever. And whenever there is a budget or anything, the big ASSOCHAM and CIA are always called. Even though the Sensex economy is hardly 10 to 12% of India's GDP, they are first in the queue in North Block. Whereas the others, these MSME and others, I don't think is cared about by anybody. An ordinary Indian housewife has never been called for consultation, even though she provides 28% of the saving of the economy. She is the backbone of the saving which helps our domestic investment. So let's look at it very interestingly. Everybody talks about, oh, Pani Puri walas are great and Puchka fellows are important and small business is important. And no Pani Puri wala can ever enter into North Block, leave alone for consultation, even for selling. That's not allowed. The security will throw him out. So same way, so much is talked about Hindutva. Hindus are, they are our blood and DNA and all the things. But once the government comes to power, the whole scenario changes. It's nothing to do with UPA or NDA or anything. For instance,
it's a
look at it very interesting. Yeah. When the current Prime Minister was taking office in the Parliament, he went straight and made a big namaskaram to Indian Constitution. Very interesting. The American president take oath on the Bible, and they don't even bat an eyelid for doing it. The first Bible which Washington used is supposed to be preserved, and it is brought out during Obama time. They never. So if he had gone and bowed to Bhagavad Gita, it would have been totally different, because the constitution to which he did namaskar is primarily a document made on Minto Marley 1935 Act. It's not by the elected members of India and Hindus and other things, nothing. And that socialism and secularism have been inserted during emergency.
Yes.
I do not know.
Yes.
So if the PM has to preserve all these things, obviously he can't be doing many things which was promised before the polls. This is very, very critical. For instance, the church is similar to the multinational corporations in the world. In India, which is recognized by Vatican, it's not an Indian church, let's be very clear about it. The Vatican appoints all the, and funding is also coming from abroad, huge amount of funding. Last year, 1916-17, 1,100 crore came to Tamil Nadu only for 230 various Christian organizations. 1,100 crores only for a state called Tamil Nadu. Aggregate, if you take 1,70,000 crores have come, 1,70,000 crores have come between 2003 and 2016. Now the point is, it's an organized entity. It's similar to multinational corporation. Actually, there is an excellent writing by Ernest Controvich, where he talk about the mystic of the theology of the body of the Christ, from which the state came into being, from which the corporate entities, all the companies today are, according to him, he has established in a very long essay, is a mirror image of the functioning of the church. The church has been replicated in the form of corporate, and the fight between corporate and the church, finally the corporate won in terms of so-called secular, separating church from the state. Otherwise, church was running the state in most of the European countries. So the separation is called secular, except in India it is absurdly, it is assumed that if you are pro-church and pro-mosque, then you are secular. It's not that meaning at all. Anyhow, so fundamentally this document is not, let me repeat, it is not in tune with the aspirations of the ordinary Hindus in India, which are totally disorganized according to the church. And not only that, they say these hetans and these kafirs should be organized. What does it mean is that the existing small organizations like caste, family and other things should also be completely eliminated. When you become Hindus, become recognized or organized according to the Western notion is when 95 or 100% of the country is become either Christians or Muslims. That's the only way you will be recognized. Otherwise, you will be considered. Same way, the MSME sector will be recognized only when large portions of them are either erased or become corporates. All of them get listed and all of them are audited by Ernst & Young or KPMG or something.
So there's one big difference, isn't it? I mean, the religions, Muslim, Islam and church, Christianity, both those religions are congregational. You have to go a particular day of the week. Whereas in India, I mean, depending on which deity that you go to, it's a different day of the week. Saturday for Balaji and some other day for something else, Hanuman.
That is also not very rigorous in the sense.
Yes.
You may, or the only congregating time is that of like Kumbh Mela or some of these things.
Yes.
But there again, it is not a preaching congregation. Let's be very clear about it. Nobody comes and gives a big lecture that do's and don'ts. The second is most important. In the Hindu system, you are more concerned about your own moksha, or in English, if I can use the word salvation, vis-a-vis the God. But in other two religions, they are more interested in the salvation of others. They have to be worried about how other fellows get salved. This is something very, very fascinating actually. That is why I always insist Christianity and Islam are not religions in the sense of the term in which we understand. They are actually political systems, made primarily to capture geography as well as to add numbers. throughout the history, you see 30-year war, 100-year war, all these wars, Khilafats and this Jihadi wars, this crusades, all of them which were there for the last 1500 years were all fought in the Middle East and as well as in Europe actually. So we never had anything called a holy war, because for us, holiness is in terms of our relationship with God. That's all, nothing more or nothing less. That is the reason why they are trying to impose now a syndrome of guilt into ordinary Hindus. What do? That you have been oppressing and suppressing so many people without any background or without any proof or anything. You have, and they say that we will have to be here to what one can call give new life to the Dalit. That's a terminology they have started using, Dalit actually. We don't have that terminology at all. The most interesting thing is, people after becoming Christians are also calling themselves as Albert Nadars and what one can call Nicholson Gounders, and they have not given up their thing. So there is a intense, so that travails of MSME and travails of ordinary Hindus are similar. Before coming to power, every political party, every formation always talks about the need to look at these things. But after coming to power, their hands are tied by the constitution. Let's be very clear about it. You have to go by that mandate. And who are the fellows who have to implement it? All of them are Western educated, and a substantial portion of them are also Christians and Muslims. If you take, for instance, I wish somebody does a survey in our media, both in print media as well as in visual media. The proportion of people following Christian religion, I think, is much higher than the national proportion of their population. That is something. You look at the court, for instance. Courts have to go by constitution. You show me one judgment in the last 15 years, except that of Kajju, I'll come to that, where they have quoted Upanishad or Bhishma Parva or any other classic text of Hindus, Chanakya or anything, in order to establish some principles. No, they quote more from the French, the British, Latin, Greek, and various other sources. Only Kajju, because of the nature of the issue on Hindu undivided family, he talks in one of the judgment about Vitakshara and what one can call Haribal. These two major divisions in the Hindu undivided family, and he goes on about it. Otherwise, there has never ever been any judge in the country who is rooted to our soil. Same way, wherever MSME has any problem, it is looked upon from the corporate wheel point of view.
Sir, what about Krishnayar, Justice Krishnayar?
No, not much.
Okay.
Justice Krishnayar is known to use more of Latin and Greek. And of course, he will use sometime he might use some Sanskrit thing, but only in relation to Latin and Greek.
I see.
So it is not something. Point is, it's not some usage only. I'm telling, these are the roots, and using this context, I am giving this judgment. That is not coming. That is the most important thing. So same thing about MSME are suffering because of they are treated as unorganized, and they are like gooseberries, here and there moving. And periodically they are being told that you are the backbone of our economy. And I think once you were mentioning to me, when the derivative products were introduced, how the MSMEs were taken for a ride by some of the banks, right?
Yes, yeah, journey down memory lane. Viewers, yeah. I don't know if you have read our series on financial derivatives, KIKO, kick in, kick out. This happened in 2007. Professor RV, if you will bear with me, I just want to draw our viewers' attention to this.
Sure.
So what really happened was a lot of foreign exchanges, primarily dollars, were coming into India because the participatory note route, suddenly somebody seems to have discovered it, or somebody did a great job selling this to financial institutions, and suddenly there was a huge inflow of dollars, which caused in the rupee appreciating quickly. and our MSME, micro and small and medium enterprises, they are used to always a gradual depreciation. They're not used to appreciation of the rupee. So they kind of got caught with their pants down, because all of a sudden their material was giving them less rupees when converted, when they were exporting. So when they were going through this, they didn't know quite what to do. And the banks that they used to use, their banks, their parents' bank, their grandparents' bank, these banks, all of them suddenly came out with this new financial instrument called as kick in, kick out derivatives, which neither the bank fully understood nor the purchaser fully understood. But
It was more kick out than kick in.
it was more kick out than kick in. So what ended up happening was the rupee appreciation stalled after a little bit when the participating note flow dried up, and then again it started its downward trend. And this Kiko made the situation much worse for the MSME, which caused them to lose a lot of money. A lot of lawsuits were filed, and in fact, in Orissa High Court, the Orissa High Court said, asked the CBI to do a thorough inquiry into all the public sector and private banks that were involved in selling this Kiko to the unsuspecting MSME owners. Remember that the owner of an MSME is usually a 10th class fail, and I'm sure Professor RV will back me up on this.
Right. Even in South, actually, Tirupur, Karur, so many areas, there are a lot of cases again, ICICI Bank and others, so many others actually, who sold some of these exotic financial products to the unsuspecting, the small and medium fellows. Yes. See, again, very interesting. Large number of small and medium fellows, when they suffer, nothing much comes. 8th or 9th page small news comes under. But if one of the large MNCs or large big corporates have a problem, then it becomes a very huge thing, and immediately there is an editorial in all these the pink or sometimes pink and white also, white paper.
So to finish the story, sorry if I'll beg your indulgence. To finish the story, yeah. So the Orissa High Court ordered a CBI inquiry into this whole thing, and the banks all got together, formed an association,
went to Supreme Court,
and got a stay order. Guess what? That stay order was obtained years ago, and the Supreme Court is yet to take up this case. I don't understand why the Supreme Court is so obsessed with the height of the Dahi Handi, or whether women should enter Sabarimala or something else, when there is this crying need. Many of the MSMEs just completely went out of business because this money, they trusted it with their own banks, and the banks were very quick to collect the money from them on the Kiko options, and they didn't care about the fact that these people were ignorant, that they themselves didn't know what they were selling, and the whole law. There is a big scandal there, big scam there. It has all the signature of a certain individual who I usually call as evil genius associated with it. But this would have come out only if there was a thorough inquiry. Any white collar scam is very difficult in India to unearth because nobody knows what comes and what goes. Somewhere somebody gets kicked in, somebody makes the money, and so on.
MSME are same as travails of Hindus. The courts, you think, is going to be very interesting. Courts are nowadays, increasingly for TRP. If they go for the Handy, they will get headline news in Times of India. That's something which is more. If they look into these derivatives, who is going to, and then the sufferers are these fellows. Let them. It's not something you can always trample upon them, as I would rather call. So the fundamental problem is, I do not know whether I mentioned. I will tell you. When the new government took over, our Prime Minister went and did a full namaskar to the Constitution of India. It's a very fascinating. I am very puzzled actually. The American president take oath on the Bible without any what one can call worry, concern or something. It's assumed to be a standard practice actually. The first one which Washington took oath is still preserved, and it was brought out during Obama time. So, and then they say that let God save America. God doesn't have.
God bless America is a standard line.
God bless only America, not the whole planet or anything. It's excluding South Asia.
So God bless the United States of America.
That's all, most important. So, if our PM had did a namaskaram to Bhagavad Gita, I would have been phenomenally happy. Not, see, this constitution, what we are so much talking about, first of all, it was mirror image of 1935 Minto-Marley Act. It's nothing fundamentally different or anything. Here and there, some patchwork has been done. And it was done by people who are all what you may loosely call Western oriented in terms of their attitude and their outlook. So by and large, we wanted to follow the British systems only. And that's why, and even this word secularism, socialism was inserted much later during the emergency period. I'm not very sure whether the current PM or government is totally fond of secularism or socialism. But anyhow, he has did the namaskaram to it. That means he is totally accepting it actually. Lot of this has to change actually, because it doesn't take into account the concerns of ordinary Hindus. Very simple. The organized church has got much more power today, and it is, incidentally, a church is not Indian church. It's a Vatican church whose members are all appointed by the Vatican, and it also gets huge amount of funds from abroad. Last year, something like 1100 crore was obtained only in Tamil Nadu, underline it, by something like 200 or so Christian organizations, only in Tamil Nadu. If you take the whole India between 2002 and 2016, statistics is available, 1,70,000 crores have come into India for all these church-based organizations. So their power is extraordinary. For instance, somebody threw a stone on a Delhi-based church, and some glass windows got broken. Another, it became such a global issue actually, and immediately the government has to constitute committees, and but a couple of other the temples are razed, or people are killed. It doesn't really matter. Implementation of laws itself is issue. For instance, a lot of these states have got this ban on cow slaughter. Many states, including the Congress rules, but that is never implemented in practice. And if people smuggle cows, and somebody tries to stop them, or obviously in rural India and the small towns, and if you take away my assets, the one of the recourse is to beat you up actually. Going to cops and other thing is okay. Fantastic argument can be given about due process of law and other thing. Like what you mentioned, the Orissa court judgment is pending with Supreme Court for decades actually. Same way, smuggling of cows is against the law enacted by the respective governments. But that law is more observed in the breach therein, and nobody can question that this law is not implemented. If I today say the law should be implemented, people will pounce on me. People will say, what is this rubbish? So what is happening, and the thing is, the ecosystem has become so complicated. MSME is totally neglected. As I indicated to you, they are never called for coming to consultation or anything. The last man in the queue is last man in the queue. That's all. You wait. We will. So before election, everybody comes and talks about all this glory of these things. But after election, I think it is completely. I think that seat, what I mean to say is the Delhi power seats, they are like your Vikramaditya thrones, I think. Once you sit on it, then automatically you become totally different than when you are campaigning and preaching. So in this context, what is required is non-congregating, non-converting groups like Hindu groups. Hindus, again, there is nothing called one Hindu. In the sense, there are as many type of sects as possible, sampradayas or what you may call. There is a big thing in Kanjivaram in Tamil Nadu, Attivaradar. There is a story of this Vishnu statue, which is inside the pond. Once in 40 years it is taken out, and then it is exhibited for a period of 48 days, and then again it goes into the pond. Now recently, July 1st, it was removed, and then now it is under exhibition. Point I want to say is, there is one sect of Vaishnavites who are running the temple. The other sect of Vaishnavites are not very comfortable or active in this show at all. But there is a queue, people 4 a.m. onwards in Tamil Nadu. People are standing in queue, and one day itself, 140,000 people went through in order to, worship this god. That's once in 40 years is not a very easy thing to get, and it appears none has seen it for 3 times. It's very difficult, People have seen it for 2 times, of course, but 3 times it is extremely difficult. Anyhow, the point I want to stress is there are as many sects, or what you may loosely call sampradayas. They are not the Western notion of subdivisions or anything of a religion. It's all each one has their own mechanics of dealing with birth, samskaras, death, mundan, and all that. So these have to be protected. Mean the state has to play a very, very important role. If you ask me, the state requires to protect the Hindu system. Why? Because it is not, otherwise the only small organized groups will be like Bajrang Dal and other, and which the elite, the mainstream media and all the experts will frown upon. What is this fellows? They are all coming with, Arey Baba, there is no other, because the church, which I call the religion of love, and the mosque, which is the religion of peace, they have their own mechanics of protecting themselves as well as the state to protect them. It's a very fascinating thing. The state protects some groups which doesn't require protection. State doesn't protect groups which require protection, actually.
What a delightful oxymoron. What a delightful oxymoron.
Delightful oxymoron. Same way, state doesn't need to protect the large corporates and other things. They can take care of themselves. State goes out of the way to provide protection to them. But what is required is these MSMEs and other things who are suffering. The reason is they have got competition from global forces. Same thing, Hindus have got competition from global forces today. What is the difference between the Christianity and the Muslim practitioners in India is, in the case of Christians, the local is made global. That is, a minor issue locally, like a stone is thrown at a church window, it become a global issue. New York Times, Washington Post, Vatican, all people, and that stupid organization called USICRF, everybody gets jump into that and then write profusely that Christianity is under threat. So they do what I call local issues, they globalize. Islam, if you take very interesting Muslims, they global issues, they localize because of their numbers. When Alexa mosque was having, it was burnt quite some time before by supposedly people who are not happy with the functioning or something. There were riots in India. That is the global becoming. There is one preacher in US, I forget his name actually, one evangelical preacher, he called Prophet Muhammad as some madcap or something in a TV interview in US, and it created a furor. This was in the 90s actually, and I'm not getting his name anyhow. He was and he told, I stand by that. You know a lot of these what one can call televangelical preachers who can call anything and get away with it in US.
Yes.
And but in a small town, Bhiwandi in India, 6 people got killed because of him telling that this is the Prophet Muhammad is a madman. What he told is unacceptable maybe, but not much reaction on a physical level in US or Europe, but in India. Similarly, there was supposed to be a movie in YouTube, nobody might have seen it also, which abuses the Prophet. And there were, believe me sir, 1 lakh people around the US consulate in Chennai, including that what one can call corridors and what they call the old Gemini circuit.
Yes,
during the Jayalalitha time. And they told the American embassy has to stop this. American embassy, I do not know how much hold they have on YouTube. Anyhow, they were very clear, and they told also the American president has to apologize to them. Again, you see, so one is globalizing local issues, other is localizing global issues. Both ways, Government of India immediately steps in and tries to do something. These Hindu groups can neither globalize nor localize. They have to, chew in their own thing, and then sometimes they blame karma, and sometimes they, they say that it's like that. So the hundreds of sampradayas in India requires government protection, government support, and any small organized activity immediately is frowned upon. For instance, some temples are run by Hindu groups. Immediately government pounces and takes over those temples. Can you believe it? Because if you cannot be organized by definition. We will never allow you to be organized. We will never also support you. That is another issue. We will never support you. We will never allow you to be organized. This, for instance, lot of private schools are run by Hindu people, Hindu trust and other thing. The one way to kill them is create RTE exclusively for Hindu schools, not for others. So any government, I am not talking about BJP government or NDA government or UPA government, any government in India by definition has to be anti-Hindu. As long as you want to stick to this current constitution, and the entire group are what I call the AMROs, alienated metropolitan rootless wonders. These are
alienated metropolitan rootless
wonders. These are the fellows who run the show, either in the form of civil servants or in the form of judges or in the form of anchor experts or whatever it is, right? They will never allow Hindus to be protected. That is the same thing I am telling the other way. Yeah. No government, no MSME, no SME can get any proper justice from any government of India or the state government. They will be killed by credit availability, interest rates and corruption. So one way many of them have decided is better to be corrupt. Give money, that's all. And 30% tax rate and 20% corruption. According to me, 50% is our tax rate. Effective tax rate is 50%.
Right.
For most of small and medium business, they cannot do anything. They don't have a huge paraphernalia like your Ambani's or Adani's or HLL and other. On the other side, for instance, there was a hue and cry. You might have read in paper also about Nestle's this 2-minute noodle having some material which is harmful to health.
Yes.
There was such a hue and cry. They were supposed to be investigated. Total silence. Nothing has come out of that. And again, Nestle is selling very well. Volvo buses, periodically quite a number of buses catch fire. This is also in Karnataka. And there was a hue and cry that some problem, fundamental problem is there in Volvo buses. Otherwise, why should they, suddenly catch fire by themselves? Supposed to be some investigation, and emergency doors were not there fixed properly also. But nothing, no news has come out of it. I'll tell you, the power of global corporates in India is unbelievable for the simple reason our domestic fellows are totally dependent on them. If you want any major Indian business fellow to go to, for instance, restroom in any 5-star hotel or something, he would like a foreign collaboration for that. He would like, he would look around for some FII and FEI, or there Professor Vaidyanathan, I would like to take there. Arey Baba, you have to go to restaurant, you only can do it. Nobody else can do it for you. It's not like dog walking or something. See, for instance, this G5 launching, this mobile facility and other thing, 5G launching. We are in such a pathetic situation. Either Huawei we have to go with, or we have to go with the US companies. That's all. We don't have any other independent choice or anything. So the stranglehold of global corporates on our government is complete. So SME as well as the Hindutva forces, if they have to be assertive, if they have to get justice, they have to demand it. They have to see to it that the government which protects them, which respects them, comes into power. It's nothing to do with, again, let me repeat this UPA India conundrum or something. And constitutional changes, if required, must be done. There is nothing wrong about it. It's not some God given document or something. It should be changed. This is what is my submission, and the commonality between these two will make you understand the travails of the modern India.
Yes,
That
indeed.
is what.
Yes, indeed. And just to add to Professor RV's point, it is rumored that 85% of the hundi collections at the Tirumala temple are being used by the Andhra Pradesh government for its own, as if they're expecting you to put the money in the hundi and they're using it. So Hindus, you want to show unity for 1 month, don't go to Tirupati. Stay at home.
Don't put it in hundis.
No, I mean, the thing is, the problem is, why go through all the way to the hundi?
And you know that recently Karnataka government says any money put on the plate for the pandit, that also should be given to the government.
So that way, what happens is, see, if you go there, then what happens is you end up helping the businesses there. Right now, the temple thing has become an industry, become a business. The food that is cooked for temples is often being prepared by non-Hindus. I have a problem with that. I definitely have a problem with that. So, if you really want to show us a unity, what I would request is everybody declares 1 month, nobody goes to Tirupati. You can have Suprabhadam from YouTube. You can listen to it anytime. You can do it every day if you want. You don't have to just, or you can do it every Saturday. Whatever it is, you can make it as if you are in Tirupati, right in the comfort of your home, and then see what happens. Because this is not going to go away just like that. We are all being taken for granted, and let's show this thing. I've not been to Tirupati.
Is a very simple example where Hindus go and offer money, and the state, I mean the government is so much upset about it. Again, let me repeat, any proper organized activity undertaken by Hindus will be sabotaged by the government, and saw to it that any fund generated should be gobbled up actually and used for other quote unquote secular purposes.
Yes.
And I want to stress at this point, the opposite of secular is not communal, it is sacred. And we see sacredness everywhere actually. We see sacredness in stone, in trees, in animals, in everything. Whereas, incidentally, for Islam, there is nothing is sacred. This is something which is not recognized by many people. Nothing is sacred, and they would rather consider only the Prophet and his name. And even that is not in name and form. You cannot put him in the form in terms of some picture or something. In Christianity, only the bread and wine is sacred because that's supposed to represent the blood of the Christ and the body of the Christ. Nothing else is sacred. All others are. But for Hindus, for us, when you visit a temple, even the step which people, observe and then do namaskaram to it, that is sacred. For us, everything is sacred. Nothing is secular for us actually, or rather non-sacred. But what has happened is these communist and left people have contrasted secular versus communal. So if you worship everything, then you are communal. This is something very, very interesting. The secular is again sacred. So again, your point is extremely well taken. But if all the Hindus decide 1 month not to go, the government is going to arrest them actually. Then they will put a law that you cannot listen to Suprabhadam at your home, or because that's a huge source of money for Andhra Pradesh government actually, as much as TASMAC is the huge source of money for Tamil Nadu. Yes. So let me again repeat before concluding this, the travails of Hindus and MSME is not going to be easily solved, because no government is going to be pro-Hindu or pro-MSME until and unless you make fundamental changes in the way in which we conduct our affairs.
Yes, indeed. And thanks for watching. We hope that you get the gist of where India is headed and how we came here. And just to finish the thing, remember, communists do not believe in God. So they have no business talking about God. I don't understand why they're even invited to debate, but that's a matter for a different day. Thank you very much, Professor RV. Thanks for watching this video, and do subscribe.